Get the party started. How y'all doing today? Great. That's awesome. Great on a Saturday at school. I love that attitude, right? Because where else would you want to be except taking more steps toward your future career? Right? That's one way to look at it. I'm going to try to give you that way to look at it. You can choose to decide your own viewpoint, right? I can't control that. I can only try to instigate. Okay, so we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna get into some tools that are gonna help us work faster, right? As you're realizing by now, oh my goodness, everything takes longer than I expected, right? You think a half an hour, it's gonna be at least an hour and a half, if not like 3 hours, right? If you ever watch any of Steve's videos, his estimated production time is ×6. So everything you think is going to take 10 minutes is going to take 60 minutes. Everything you think is going to take an hour is going to take 6 hours. And you might think that's pretty exaggerated until you start doing it, right? Like, I can see that smirk on her face right now. She's like, oh, I don't know, 6. I'm thinking maybe 8. Yeah, it takes a long time. And people out of the industry really don't understand that, right? They have no concept when you're playing the game, how much goes into it. When you're watching the movie, how much work it actually takes to complete that movie, right? Now you're starting to see just a modeler's aspect, a setup artist, an animator, right? We're just touching on it. We're getting to the foundations of all that, okay? So it takes teams of people, okay? Communication is going to become important. You can't stay on an island. You have to come in to society and start communicating, right? So build your friends, get your communication. Here's an idea. Hey man, critique my work. Tell me what you see, right? Ask people. The more you ask, I guarantee your quality of your work's going to go up, and I guarantee that you're going to be more comfortable when you get in the studio. Because when you're getting paid for art, you get critiqued all the time. You have to, right? You're getting paid for it. They want it as accurate, as high quality as possible by that deadline, right? So working faster is something that we're always trying to achieve, right? Better tools, also, you know, the interface, right? How can we use the interface, right? A lot of you might have come into 3DF and fought the 3-button mouse or the tablet and said, I'm just going to use a trackpad. It's right here. Why would I go anywhere else? This is the place to go. I carry it with me, got my laptop, trackpad right here. And soon you realize that, yes, you can get the work done with that, but it's going to be much, much slower than if you have a device like a 3-button mouse or a tablet where you can use those buttons, right? So we're going to talk about some GUI advances to help you speed up your process, right? Graphical user interface is what GUI stands for. You'll hear that expression, GUI. You look at the GUI, right? Okay, so let's get going with lecture 6. Oh my goodness, is that true? Can that be possibly true, 6? How many lectures do we have here? No, not even 12. 11. Right, right, so there's 11 lectures. We are officially beyond halfway through this class. Does that send tingles down the back of your neck? Because I mean, I teach this every month and it still sends tingles down the back of my neck because, wow, it just goes so fast, right? And you're gonna realize that this whole school goes that way, right? You're just been going at light speed and taking in notes. Awesome. You're already up one because you're actually taking those notes. You guys with your notepads and your pencils and pens, you are up one. By the end of your journey here, there's not too many people that don't understand the value of taking your own notes. Okay, so kudos to you all already are up on that. Okay, all right. So today we're not only going to get into how to work faster, we're also going to get into a really cool aspect of how do we put materials on our objects, right? Does everybody love that medium gray, that 50% gray, that 0.5 gray? Not so much, right? Not so much. I want a little spice in my life, right? So we're going to teach you how to put materials, create them in the Hypershade. Okay, it's a new window that you create all your materials, or you can create them elsewhere, but that's generally the window you're going to work with, the Hypershade. And we're going to teach you how to create those materials, how to assign those materials, how to change the color of those materials. Okay, this is by no means a shading and lighting exercise. Okay, again, foundations, right? You're going to get into the shading and lighting. What are materials? What do we need to tell the computer mathematically to do with the light that it sends out when it hits something? Is it glossy? Is it flat? Is it ochre? Is it black? Is it brown? Is it red? Is it green? Right? All of those things we're going to have to tell the computer that's what we want, right? If it could read our minds, ooh, it's coming though one day, right? We'll just think about it and the computer will go, okay, I can make that. I've seen the movies, right? Happens in the movie, it's going to happen in real life eventually. That's what I think. Okay, so vocabulary. Remember I kind of freaked out at the end of the last lecture and went, I haven't taught you guys freeze transformations? Oh my gosh, that didn't come up in the slide? I don't remember it. Well, there it is, right? Freeze transformations. If it's vocabulary, what does that mean? We're gonna grade you on it, right? Right. We're gonna grade you on it. If we're gonna grade you on it, then it's some level of importance, right? And that level of importance is the natural procedure in a studio, right? You're going to freeze your transformations. It's just gonna be a natural part of that, okay? So yeah, we're gonna grade you on that. And how do you know, what's your last ditch checkoff list, right? Right before you turn it in, you wanna go to your self-grade document, right? I know I keep bringing this up, but I have students miss and go over this every month, right? Have you all been using it? Does it help? Right? It helps you. It's like a checks and balances, right? And if you come to the Google Hangout, it's the same thing. We're going to give you all the answers. I'm not hiding anything. I want to give you all the answers. I want you to have 100%, right? So is this what we're going to look at this week? Right here? No, we're not, right? Because that's what? Week 1. Thank you. This is something that's often overlooked as well. Well, I'll just keep on grading myself on week 1. But there's more. Uh-oh. I forgot to hit the tab at the bottom, or I noticed in the Hangout, girl brought it up and it was actually at the top of hers. So it may be on the top of yours, whatever version you're using, but nevertheless, there's going to be these tabs, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4 for each week of this class, okay? So make sure you're changing the tab so that you can see we're now adding delete history and freeze your transformations, okay? So make sure you're doing it this week, all right? Do you have to freeze transformations on a group node? Don't everybody answer at once. Let's raise our hands and be orderly about this. What are transformations? What's the transformation node? Where are the transformation attributes? That's the transformation node that holds that. That's why I have it selected and it's going to put those attributes in the channel box, right? So we have translate XYZ, rotate XYZ, scale XYZ, and visibility, right? Those are your transformations. That tells that object where to be in 3D space, right? Where does every object get created when it's brand new, just created, just born? Hello, I'm brand new, just created, where am I? At the origin, right, in the center of the world, right? So the center of the world, do those coordinates make sense for the center of the world? 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? And then the scale of it, by default, whatever it is 1. So what do you think they get to 1? Let's look at this. Let's look. Let's see if I move it right over here. Does that help? What are these black lines? There's our grids, right? So does it fit right inside of one grid? Right, so that's 1 is the default 1 grid unit by 1 grid unit by 1 grid unit, right? That's the measurement, right? You have to think the way Maya thinks, right? It's all math, right? So the math behind all of that, okay, I'm using this grid unit as my measurement. I'm going to start everything out with a default just a 1, 1, 1, right? That's my scale. Now, can I change the scale? Can I move it? I just moved it. Can I rotate it? Sure. Do my values change from that original place? Yes, they do, right? My values now are representing the move and the distance that I'm moving, the degrees that I'm rotating, right? What's a 90-degree turn? Kind of hard to tell on a cube because it's 90-degree angles, right? So it just turns 90 degrees. It looks the same. But if I had a different color on each face, then you could tell. We'll do that later. Put those colors on there. Okay, what about scale? If I put 2 in here, right, I can type it in. I don't have to use my manipulator, right? I can always type any value in my transformation node, and it's going to take me there without having to use the manipulator to scale, move, or rotate. I can type it in. Sometimes that's a lot faster, right? If you know something needs to rotate 90 degrees or 180, and you're trying to use the rotate and get it just right, well, it'd be a whole lot easier just to type it in, right? 90, 180, boom, type it in, you're done, okay? Now, what happens if I put all these back to the default? 1, 0. Where does it go? Right back to its default position, right? The center of our world at the origin, okay? Okay, so we talked about freeze transformations, and I explained it last time that it's not really freezing the transformations, okay? It's basically saying those are frozen transformations right now, right? This is like the default start position of that object, right? But when you're building a scene, right, a lot of times, as you're going to do, you're going to build a still life, right? And you're going to set this laptop there, the power cord there, this laptop here. Is that going to be at the origin? Certainly not, because they're in different places to begin with, right? So you know that can't be the origin, right? Okay, so in the studio, when you get it there, everything's in place. That's when you freeze transformations. Use that tool as freeze transformations so that that new place is their origin. That's their start place, okay? That way, if anybody opens up the scene and moves something, they can go, oh, I don't know where it was before. No, I do, because they froze transformation, so I'll just zero it out and it'll get right back where it was, right? That's the backup safety, right? That's, you know, making sure that things run smoothly, right? There's no way you as a modeler can take this fancy cube that you made, took hours to make, scaled it just right, and put this in here like this, right? And then you ship it off to the next guy, and they move it, and they say, well, you didn't freeze transformation. So can you give me all those values of where it was before you gave it to me? You can see the problem there, right? That's not gonna be efficient, right? Okay, so freeze transformation says this is your new place. This is your new starting position, okay? So where is freeze transformations? I showed you just 2 days ago. Modify, thank you very much. I wonder how you know that. Because you take notes. That's why you know that. Do you have a photographic memory? Do you remember everything you hear, say, or read? No, you don't, right? But writing it down makes you inherently remember this stuff. Whether it helps you remember a little bit more or a lot more, it helps you some, right? So do it. Take notes digitally, analog, in your phone. I don't care. Take notes. Somewhere you can keep those. So what happened to my transformation node? Is it at the origin? It's not at the origin, right? But the numbers show that, right? Okay, so basically what I said is, Maya, this is the new origin for this object. This is the starting place. So if anybody animates it, this is where it comes back to. This is where it's starting, okay? If anybody accidentally moves it, this is where it's gonna start, right? I used to teach visual effects, and if you ever do any rigid body simulation, you'll have something collide with something, and it could go into outer space, and you know, have no idea where it is, right? But if you froze your transformations, you can always get it back right to where you started, right? Just zero that out. Boom, there it is. Start your simulation again, okay? A lot of my students had to restart the whole thing because the object was so far gone, they couldn't find it. They didn't know how to get it back to where it started from. All right, so this is all good reasons why you want to freeze those transformations. Okay, now if I were to put this in my scene, get it set up just the way I want it, and then decide, you know, maybe I need to move that a little bit more. Maybe it's scaled just a little bit. Maybe I just need to rotate just a little bit more this way. Okay, and then I save it. What happens when I grade your scene? And I grade you for frozen transformations. Unfortunately, I have to give you the thumbs down, right? I don't like giving the thumbs down. I really like the thumbs up. But unfortunately, you have missed, right? You've missed it. Because when I select it, hello, the transformations are not frozen. There is a value in there, okay? And you've just missed that part of the grade. Hopefully you see the grading frown and then you remember it, because now's the place to make the mistakes, right? When you're in the studio, you frown and you may be walking out, right? Making mistakes is not going to keep your job, okay? So make your mistakes here at school. That's the place to make them. Okay, so what if I had, let's create a cylinder as well. And these were two parts of a single object, right? And to make it a lot easier to move around, certainly grouping or parenting would make a lot of sense here, right? Because I'm not going to position 10 or 20 pieces or even 2 pieces of an object one at a time in my final scene, my still life, right? I'm not going to take each piece of that object and position it, right? That would not make sense. So let's work smarter, not harder, right? So I would take those two and I would do either an edit group or an edit parent so that I would get a node that I could work with, right? Call that my dual pieces, okay? So this way I can move them together. If I need to rotate them, the whole object is going to rotate all together. If I have to scale them at all, they're going to scale proportionally together, okay? So this is how you really want to work with it, right? This is how you want to move it around, okay? So this is overlooked a lot of times too, because it's a group node. You think, hey, why don't they freeze the groups? Yes, you do. Every node in your whole scene should be frozen, okay? They should be at their original default spot wherever you place them, and that's when you pass it on, we know that that is the spot that we're going to start from. Okay, so let's get this frozen out, frozen out, frozen out. Why did I check all three? What if I had moved this a little bit, right? Maybe that's the Lego arm and I want to be cool in my still frame and I just want to rotate it up a little bit, right? So now I take that arm and I rotate it, okay? Then I take my group node, I forget all about my rotation, and I place my Lego man just right where I want them. I have my group node, I know I need to freeze that transformation. Why is my left mouse button not working? Okay, then I think, okay, my dual group node is all good, frozen. I'm gonna pass this part, I'm all good. Well, don't forget to check your individual nodes, okay? All right, so they're all frozen. Any changes, freeze it again, okay? So what I would do is get your objects imported, set them all up, get your display layers, check your display layers, on and off visibility, make sure all of them work, right? Finalize your positioning of your camera and your render, or for this week, you're just putting them on the pillars, okay? But your final week, you're gonna be setting up a still life that you're gonna render of your models, right? I say your models, right? You're not gonna use the jar, right? No jars. I have students turn it in. It's like, hey, I modeled that sucker. I'm like, no, you didn't. We modeled it. You followed our steps to do it. Okay, so don't use our models, right? Peppermill and those things. Don't use those. Use your models. Be proud of those. You get to pick any one, any four of your models. And then when you get them all into place, just check every single node. You see, I'm going through the outliner. I use the outliner not a lot, but when did I show you 2 days ago? The hypergraph, right? Same thing in the hypergraph, right? Shows my nodes, so I can select them here. I can look at them over here. Yep, all frozen out, okay? If I were to say move my group node, doesn't matter if I select it over here in the outliner, it's gonna show me that in the channel box, or if I select it in the hypergraph, it's gonna show me in the channel box. No worries, whether I see it here, grab it there, even in your viewport, right? Right now we're in object mode, okay? We roll over this, you see selection at the bottom, object type, okay? When you're in component mode, if I were to click on this and say, let's go to edge, okay, this is component mode right here, okay, select by, oh, I'm sorry, hierarchy, this is component mode right here, all right? So these three buttons right here will toggle between whether you're gonna select components, objects, or hierarchy, okay? Hierarchy means go to the top node, go to the parent. Okay, if I select by hierarchy and I select something, notice that it goes right to my parent, right, my dual. All right, I'm gonna do it again. So I'm gonna select this cylinder, left mouse button, and since I'm in hierarchy selection mode, it goes right to the parent. If I'm back in object mode, deselect everything, and I select the object, then it selects the P-cube1 and selects the object. So these are the three nodes I have in my scene right now, right? I have two object nodes, and I have one group node, which can be selected through hierarchy. So freeze all your transformations. It's a killer when you lose points there, okay? See how these folks are doing. Can you guys see and hear me? Lost. You can hear me though, right? And see what I'm doing. Well, please come to the Hangout. It's open 24 hours a day. You know what hours I'm going to be there, but there's a lot of other hours that instructors are in there. So drop in there. There's 2 links, Hangout 1 and 2. Okay. All right. All right, so like I promised, we're going to talk about speeding up your workflow, right? I've already been throwing out some hotkeys. Some of you have already been, spitting them back to me, right? Who knows a hotkey? Every single one of you know a hotkey. I know you knew Z, right? Don't tell me nobody knows about Z. Know about Z? No? The Z button? You've heard of it, right? See, he's an ant, right? The Z button, what is it? Undo, right? It's a hotkey for undo, right? So you can go to the menu, right, and select that, right? I can go up here and say, I don't even know where it is because I always use the hotkey, right? Edit, undo, whatever it was. It's going to give me a little heads up, right? So select it. I can undo what I selected, right? It undoes. It's an undo for the last command, right? Can you push it several times? And then it keeps going back in history and keeps undoing and undoing and undoing, right? How do you, if you go too far, do you know how to get back to the last step? The redo. It's Shift Z, right? Right below it, right there, okay? And in your menu set, you're gonna see, actually, it gives you all the hotkeys right there, okay? Gives you all the hotkeys. So Command Z is gonna undo. I find you don't even have to push Command, you just push Z, all right? Shift Z will redo, okay? I do that a lot. If I wanna go back like 10, I'm not gonna go 1, 2, oh, went too far, right? I'm just gonna, oh, I want that last one back. Shift Z, right? All right, so we'll do a Shift Z, right? What about these other ones, right? How about these pretty big one here, select Q, right? Isn't that the hotkey I told you about when you're in a tool like multi-cut and you're slicing around and you're done, or insert edge loop and you're done with it? How do you get out of it? Just to simply hit the Q, right? Because that takes you to now a new tool. So it tells Maya, hey, I'm done with that tool, put it up on the shelf, right? Now let's go get this other tool. And the tool that you're not gonna hurt anything with is a select tool, right? So that's why I say Q. That's why I always use that to get out of any other tool. Because other tools might do an action, right? Select is not gonna do an action that I don't care about. It's just gonna select, right? Not a big deal, right? What about move? What's my hotkey for move? W, right? So we have Q on the keyboard, W on the keyboard. What's the next one? E, and what's that gonna be? Rotate, right? And the next letter is R, and what's that? Scale, right? So do you see how it's a, if you can, gonna work faster, 2 hands? So it may not take you very long to take your mouse and go up, or your cursor, whatever you're using, and select move, and then go back and grab your manipulator and move it, right? But how many times do you do that in an hour? More than 10, right? I hope you're doing it more than 10, right? What about if it's not the move tool and you want to rotate, right? What if you want to scale? This is much quicker, right? So every hour, how much time are you saving by clicking the hotkey as opposed to taking your cursor over to the menu, the toolbox over there, and pressing that tool? Telling Maya, I want the move tool. I want the rotate tool. I want the scale tool, right? One, it takes your eye off the ball because you're right here trying to, let's say, move this vertice, right? Or no, Yeah, I got to move it. So, oh, it's already got the move tool. Okay, cool. That's right. That's no problem. Let's go with this edge and say, yeah, I don't want to move it. I want to rotate it. Oh, let's go all the way over here. Now my eyes are over here. I'm looking on the rotate. Click the rotate. Then I have to come all the way over here, and my eyes have to just, readjust to where I am. So it doesn't only allow you to quickly go through the different tools with these 4 buttons, it also allows you to maintain your focus on what you're looking at, right? You're focused on your model. You don't want to have to go over here and look on something, come back, right? It's not just the time to do that. It's also your brain has to now just readjust slightly. Obviously, we think very fast, so it's fractions of a second. Again, how many times are we doing that every hour, right? So even though it's a fraction, that's a lot of fractions. What do fractions add up to? More fractions. That was funny. Just a laugh. No. Okay. All right. Hard crowd on a Saturday. I got you. All right. So there's a hotkey editor. Okay. So, these are default hotkeys. Okay. So to make your own, okay, say I wanted to, well, for this class even, we are using transformations, freeze transformations quite a bit, right? So let's look under there, modify freeze transformations. No hotkey. I say, I would love a hotkey there, right? Especially when I have the Lego man, this other thing, a coil, 20 parts here, a couple dozen parts that I have to freeze transformations for, right? I'd love to go in the outliner and just select it and hit that hotkey, right? So let's do that, right? We can just make a hotkey for it, right? You can customize your own hotkeys. So where do we find that? Windows, Settings, Preferences, Hotkey Editor. Windows, Settings, and Preferences, Hotkey Editor. All right, so now it's going to open up a window. Maybe. Whoa, I thought I was going to crash there for a second. Oh, can't make this any smaller. Okay. Well, what we see over here is what we want to apply commands to. There's nothing there. Thanks a lot, Brian. You helped me with nothing. There's a blank spot there. I'm going to put a hotkey to nothing. You're so uncool. And we have this big typewriter thing that has a bunch of keys that are green or gray. Okay. What do you think the green ones are for? They're the ones that already have hotkeys to them, right? What's the spacebar hotkey? Go to the windows, right? That's right. 4 view, 1 view, whatever we want to pop into, right? Whatever window, right? Our cameras, right? All of those buttons have assigned hotkeys, okay? This can be slightly dangerous because you may assign some keys and then unassign some other ones or want to go back to the default, right? Sometimes we go, I'm so confused, I just want to go back to the default, right? Well, luckily we have a way to do that, okay? We can reset this back to the defaults, okay? But if we want to assign, say, to our modify, okay? And by the way, that's under Preferences, Edit, Restore, Default Settings. I should give you that answer there, Fred. I skip right over it, huh? So where I got to the preferences, there's a couple places to get to your preferences before I go back to the hotkeys. Okay, under your Maya preferences, or there's a hotkey for that, right? Command, comma. Something like that. Edit, restore default settings. Or Windows, settings and preferences, preferences. Edit, restore default settings. I'm sure there's other ways to get the preferences window open, right? That's just 2. So if you ever get to the point where like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, I'm pushing buttons and strange things are happening, first restart Maya. If it's still happening, second, I would say restart your computer, because they all have bugs. I know you're spraying it with Raid, but there's still bugs in there. Doesn't kill them all right? So bad things happen when bugs come, you know, your operating system has bugs, software has bugs, right? Restart, let it reload everything, okay? You should be restarting your computer at least once a week, if not every couple of days. Let it reset everything, okay? If you're still having problems, then reset your preferences, right? Put them back to the default. And that'll give us, you don't have to, you know, re-download Maya and, you know, reinstall, uninstall. That's going to take way too long. All right, so under edit hotkeys for choose a category, we're going to look under these categories. I'm going to go, okay, well, what is this? This is a menu item, editors, other items, custom scripts. It's a menu item, right? It's right there under modify. The menu item, I'm going to go here. It's going to pull in all my menu items, right? Boom, 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 boom. Every single one. All right. And what we want to go under is modify. So we're going to go to modify. We're going to see freeze transformations right there. And we're going to see that there's no hotkey for it. It's asking us for a hotkey. Maya is ready for a hotkey. Maya says, yeah, hotkeys, I love them. Give me one. So what we have to do is look at the keyboard and find a key that's not associated with a hotkey. And I see the letter or the number 8. And so I'm going to put 8 in there. Okay. Oops. Don't push any other buttons, and you can delete it out of there with the little X. Okay. So 8, and Maya will like listen to all of your keys you're hitting. So if you just go across it like a xylophone, that's going to be your hotkey. And I highly doubt that you're going to actually be able to remember that one or hit it. So let's do a save and close. Okay. So now, watch this, like Houdini, the cursor's in the middle of my viewport. I'm not going to move it. I'm not going to go up under modify, freeze transformations. I'm just going to press 8. Whoa. Like Flash, right? You don't see Flash actually move, just things happen, right? I just froze my transformations and you didn't see anything. You didn't see my cursor move one little bit. Want to try it again? Let's try this one. Up, over. Let's try rotating a little bit. Let's really test it out. Let's do all those transformations, right? Translate, rotate, scale, all of them. Everyone got a close eye on my cursor? No, here it is. Here it is right here. Okay, it's not moving. You ready? You ready? Right? Boom. Didn't see it move, did you? I know. That's how fast hotkeys work, right? So use your hotkeys if you find something you're repeating, right? This is a tool for repetition. How often do you use translate? A lot. How often do you use rotate? Almost as much as translate, right? How often do you use scale? Well, not quite as much as translate, maybe not as much as rotate, but pretty close, right? Oh, wait, what's Q? How often do you use select? All the time, right? Q. I don't remember the last time I went over and found that little arrow. I do not remember the last time I did that. I honestly don't. So this is the speed of it, right? Rotate, scale, move, freeze transformations, boom. Hotkeys, use them. They're awesome. They're going to make your production much faster. And when you looked at the clock and said it was going to be a half hour and it's an hour and a half, this might take off like 15, 20 minutes. Lunchtime, waffles, going for some waffles. Got my 20 minutes. So let's practice. I think we did. Were you guys doing it? I know you were. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for being engaged. Makes my job a whole lot better. I have had everything under the sun. Okay. You guys are awesome. Give me good eye contact, you're taking notes, and you're doing stuff, right? You're doing it right now, right? That way, if you're running a problem like, oh, I'm totally confused. Hey, I'm totally confused. Didn't work for me. Let me know what's going on. Let's do it again, right? All right, so spacebar, hot box. I know you've accidentally seen that before, right? This thing comes up, right? We talked about spacebar. What did we say? The windows, right? Let's go to a different camera. Spacebar, boom, spacebar over here, right? So that's a spacebar, tap and let go. This is a strange hotkey because it does dual things. Okay? It not only quick blink, bank, top. Let's frame it all. Okay, I'm in the side, I'm in the top, right? This is very, very quick to go from camera to camera, right? That's a click, push the spacebar, release. Click, spacebar, release, right? Use that. But if I wanted to move these around, and I don't like any of this stuff taking up my space, I like my real estate, I want my whole screen for my camera. That's just the way I roll. I take all of the real estate for my camera. See how much more I have here? I have like a half a more screen, right? I don't have the outliner over here. I don't have the channel box. Heaven forbid you have the attribute editor open, right? Watch how big this thing is. Attribute editor, boom. Oh, let's put the outliner and the attribute. What happened to my screen? My real estate gone. I'm living in a zero lot line. Hate those houses. Sorry if you live there. So, you know, as the artist, you like to customize and have control over your area, right? How about a second screen? And you can put a lot of windows over there. Have a whole screen just for your camera. I have students that have 3 screens. I can't afford that, but that's awesome. Power to them, man. 3 screens, but you know, if I am just limited to this one little laptop because I'm in the airport, I'm trying to fly home to see my family for Thanksgiving, and I still need to get some work done because my clients really don't care about my Thanksgiving. They just want their stuff, right? Deadlines, right? I want my stuff. I don't care about Thanksgiving. I want my stuff the day after Thanksgiving. Go have fun for a half a day. Don't think about your job, but have it done by the deadline, right? So here you are. You want your whole space for working on and looking at your camera, okay? Well, check this out. I mean, you could get rid of all your menus and everything, right? Say I had these here and I moved them around and I wanted to freeze my transformations on this guy right here. Well, I could come up here, modify, but I could also just push the space bar, hold it. Just push the space bar, hold it down. Do you see modify? Yes. Do you see file? I can go to file. I can save my file right here from my hotbox. I can get to every menu set and more from this hotbox. And wherever I press it, if I press and hold it, it's going to center all of that wherever my cursor is, right? So you kind of want to be in the middle. You don't want your hotbox to kind of open off to the side. You might miss a menu, right? So here's modify, freeze transformations, boom, done. This one, I want to modify, freeze transformations, done. So some artists like to work that way. I've walked over to a student and there was nothing there but the viewport. And they're working out of hotbox. Like, awesome, you know? Everything completely gone. All the tools, everything gone. And just a big giant window of camera. Sit in that hot box, hold it, get to all your attributes, all your tools, right? So that's another way to work, right? And this has everything, and not just the modeling, right? We have all these different. See how everything changes? The whole menu changes, set changes if we're going to rigging or animation, right? Or effects, rendering, okay? We're sticking with modeling, but if you look at this, this has everything, right? I can come over here to my effects and create end particles, right from the hotbox, right? So the hotbox is really fantastic. I mean, it is the Swiss Army knife of Swiss Army knives, right? It just keeps on opening up more tools, right? If that's the way you like to work, try it out, right? You have to find what works for you, okay? Is it the hotkeys? It might be the hotkeys. It might be the hotbox. Might even be the marking menus. You've already used these. You're pretty used to the marking menus because you have pushed the right mouse button to get to your components, right? Face, edge, vertice, or back to object mode, right? That right mouse button, you click and hold it on one of the edges and you get some options, right? So that marking menu pops up and you make a choice. You move your cursor to your choice, whether you want to go back to object mode or you want to go to vertex, right? Or if you want to select edges, right? But there's other ones here. We can do a command and we can do a shift and we get some more options there, okay? This is a little bit more dependent on what you're working on, right? So while the hotbox has like every menu set completely available to you there, this is a little bit more filtered for what you're working on, right? So I'm working on polygons and I'm gonna get the polygon tools, okay? If I were working on NURBS, I would get the NURBS tools, okay? So it's a little bit filtered. So if I come in here and I want to right click on this and I want to go into face mode, that's easy enough. Now I can select faces, right? We've been doing that for over a week. Your veterans here, right? That's old school. Right mouse button, click, get your edges, your faces, your vertices, your objects, right? Go right to object mode. But if I hold shift down, now I can go to extrude, multi-cut, insert edge loop, right? Right there where I'm looking. I don't have to go, oh, is it under mesh or is it under mesh tools? Tell me how many times you've looked for tools and you went, is it edit mesh or mesh tools? Is it edit mesh or mesh? I still do it, right? I still do it. Students ask me and I get brain freeze. I don't know, look. All right, so this is, shift. Look at that, right to multi-cut. Boom, I want to start cutting. I'm going to cut this up. Hit enter anytime I want to get done here with that. And I should, oh well, anyway, you get the idea, right? If I'm want to get out of this tool, hit Q. I go to face. I'm going to select this face. And then instead of coming up here and go, oh, well, where is extrude? I don't know, man. Let's just go down here and I'll hold shift and right mouse button, extrude face. Boom, it's right there, okay? Command gives you other tools, okay? So if I'm holding command, now I can come in here and let's grab this face. Shift's gonna give me that. Command's gonna give me, go to vertices, right? So there's extra tools in there while you're working that's gonna help you get that work done without taking you away from the focus of what you're looking at and go up to the menus and look and drop down, right? That's the advantage of Hotbox, marking menus, certainly hotkeys, right? If you know the hotkeys, you're just pushing it, right? That QWERTY, you're just gonna, that's gonna be back of your mind. You're not even gonna think about it anymore. You just wait in like 5 months, maybe not even that long. Someone will ask you, like, what's the hotkey for scale? And you go, I have to look down here because I just do it, right? You just do it. It becomes inherent. What the heck? I don't know. Well, is it E? Oh, no, it's R. That's right. That's right. No, that's scale. Okay. All right. Cool. We're doing good. All right. Any questions about those interfaces, right? Those are the GUI interfaces that Autodesk has written for you as an artist to work faster, right? It's all about the speed. Why? Because there's way too much to get done by yourself, right? As we have come to realize, as much as we wanted to come to school and learn everything and do everything all by ourselves, you can, but it's going to be very difficult. I'll have to try to look up a link for you next week. There are some pieces on the internet that are truly amazing, all done by one artist, and then you realize it took them 3 years to complete it, right? So, and it's just a short, right? No one person creates a movie, right? No one person creates a game. It's just way too much. By the time you got that game created, you'd be ready to retire. Everyone that liked the game when you were thinking about it has gone way past you, you know? All right, so any questions about that? Hotkeys or anything, right? What if I want to get rid of that hotkey, that 8? I don't want every time I hit 8 now to freeze transformations. How do I get rid of it? I could restore my defaults, right? I could go in there. But what if I just wanted to get rid of that one hotkey? Right? I didn't show you that, did I? That'd be good to show you, wouldn't it? Okay, how do I get to those hotkeys again? What's that? Settings prefs. Windows settings preferences. Hotkey editor, there it is. Takes a minute to come up, and then I'm going to choose my category, right? Menu items. I come down to modify, open up that little triangle, come down here, and there's my number 8, and I have a little X to it, right? Looks like the X-Men. Done. Save and close. Now when I go to object mode and I look at this and I open up my channel box and I move it and I press 8, no, nothing happens. I feel like a caveman. So that's how you can get rid of 1, right? Like where you went though, all the way back to I don't know what's going on, just reset. Restore to the defaults, right? Okay. Now I have to go up under modify, freeze transformations. Thanks a lot, guys. I want to keep that hotkey. I'm gonna hold you all responsible. So now we're talking about image planes. What are they, right? Have you been working with image planes yet? Yeah, right? Everything we're giving you has image planes, right? Why? Can't you just look at this thing and just model it? You say, oh, I can just model that, right? So maybe many of you, I'm going to assume that you had a pretty involved art experience in high school. I would say that maybe. Just going to take a guess there. And probably you experienced a time where you had something that was due for your art teacher and you just put it off and put it off and put it off. And now it's due tomorrow. You're like, oh my God, I can't draw that so fast. Oh my God, what can I do? Oh, well, look, this magazine has kind of what I'm looking for. Huh. So what I can do here, I can take that picture out of the magazine, I can put it up on my window, and then put my drawing pencil and paper on top of it, and trace over it, and then fill in all the details and call it my own. Now, I know you've done it, right? We've all done it, right? And honestly, how far do you go before it's copywriting, right? That's where the lawyers get in, right? So for high school to turn into your art teacher, you're probably not going to get in trouble, right? Probably going to be okay, right? But it's not something that it's not a technique that people aren't using all the time. Even if you're practicing drawing, right? You may take a fantastic piece of art or even a photograph, right? Take it into Photoshop and sketch over it, right? Hands, right? Draw them, and does it help you learn? Right. It helps us all learn how to do that. And you may feel like, well, that's cheating, but it's really not. It's really not. And that's what image planes are all about, right? We're going to take a picture, put it inside of Maya, and we're going to have the dimensions, right? We're going to have the dimensions that we just would follow that. Now we're creating the model. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? Even in the professional world, people may trace over something, right, to get the gesture and get the proportions and then carry it and fulfill it their own, right? So even your own art, you may have a sketch of something and then you want to sketch over that because you're working on the proportions, right? How about 2D animation? That's how it's all created, right? You flip through those papers, right? You've seen it, right? They draw, and then the next page is over on top of it, and they're going back and forth. Okay, I'm moving the arm just a little bit, right? So now I can see what's underneath there. How far does it have to move? Instead of trying to guess without having that reference, even the most fantastic artists at Disney couldn't do that, right? That's why they came up with the idea of the light, right? The light coming through, right? And drawing over on top of the light table, right? And looking through their pictures so they can see how the animation's moving, right? So this is a natural process, okay? And again, speed, speed, speed. If I'm just looking at this on the table, it's going to be very tough for me to get all the angles and proportions just right on my computer, right? And if I can lay my model over top of an image and match it up, it's going to be much more accurate. It's going to be much more fast. That's not even. It's going to be much faster. Much more fast. Can I scratch that from the recording? Oh, too late. All right, so image planes, we've all been working with them already. It's good. This is where pre-production comes into play. And a lot of my students say, boy, this pre-production thing, I'm going to do it in school. When I get in the studio, going straight into production. No, you're not. There is no content created without some kind of pre-production. Why? Why is that? What's the most expensive part of any content, any creation? The very most expensive part is the production part, right? You have a character, it has to be modeled, then it has to be rigged, then it has to be animated, and then it has to be rendered. And if you get to the render and you say, that character has 2 arms and I want 4. Well, we have to go back and model it. Then we have to rig it. Then we have to animate it. Then all that stuff has to start all over, right? As opposed to pre-production, where your art director goes, no, that character is supposed to have 4 arms, not 2. Okay, let me just draw it in. That's what pre-production is all about, to save you any kind of mistakes or corrections or art decisions that may happen during production, right? You want every single answer already answered in pre-production if you can afford it, if you can actually think of it. You would love to have every single thing planned out. Don't always have all that time to do it, but I guarantee there's always some pre-production because that's much cheaper to make any kind of changes, find any errors there than in production, okay? All right, so blueprints are something that are extremely good for us to take into Maya because why? Look at the camera views, right? When you're taking a selfie, do you go, selfie? Oh, wait, let me get straight to my side. Selfie. Oh, wait, let me get my profile. Selfie. Oh, wait, we're the back. Selfie. No, you're at 3/4, you have some kind of angle, right? How hard would that to be model a character? Hey, here's my selfie. There's your pre-pro. There you go. Model it. I want it perfect. So when you're looking for references, when you're looking for image planes, try to think about orthographic straight-on shots, right? That's why blueprints are fantastic because they're made for that, right? The measurements have to be that way because you can't take a 3/4 measurement of the front, right? Because it's going to have dimension there. It's going to have perspective, okay? So this is fantastic, right? I have a top shot, I have a side, I have a front and a back. We're good. That's what we always hope the clients are giving us. Is that what you usually give us? Clients a lot of times know what they want, but have no idea the process it takes to get there. So they're going to give you the, hey, selfie. That's the character I want right there. Look at that. Look at, oh, he's got such attitude. It's great. Model it. You can model that, right? Yeah. Okay. Anything else, man? Is that the only picture? You don't have a front or side? What? Who wants to take a? I don't want that in my character. I know you don't want that in your character, but that's how I have to model it. I don't understand. Can I get a new company here? No, I should have just never opened my mouth. Oh, where am I? We're down here. All right, so we're going to practice this. You guys ready? So if you're thinking, yeah, you know, image planes, he's going to show us how to bring image planes in. Now's a good time to take a little nap. I'm gonna close my eyes. They're already done for us. All the scenes are already done. They've already set them up. They've already set the image planes in there. I don't need to think about this. Well, that's okay for week 1, week 2, but week 3, guess what? What level do you go to? 1? No, you're beyond that. 2? Yeah, there's some 2s in there, but what else is in level or week 3? Level 3s. 3 level 3 models. And we don't hold your hand. So, okay, come here, sit down at this desk. We have it all set up for you. Go, right? Releasing the hounds. I'll give you 5 minutes to run. No, it is up to you. You're gonna make the scene. You are gonna import those images in by yourself, okay? We do have them for you. You don't have to go Google them and find those resources and blueprints. We do give you the pictures, but you have to set it up in the scene, okay? So if you do this with me, it's gonna make a whole lot easier when you have to do it by yourself, okay? Or come to the Hangout, it's all right. So this is an activity. So what's the first thing I have to do? Set a project. Yeah, remember this, the first time you heard that? You're like, I don't know what we have to do first. The second time, you're like, I'm not quite sure. Third time, set something. Now I like set project. We're 6 lectures into it, Brian. Come on. What do you think we are? Yeah, set project, right? And this is activities. So we're going to set it to that. Make sure it's a directory in there. Hit set. Boom. Big red flag if I go to File, Open Scene, and I don't see my activity scenes, right? That'd be bad. Okay. So, no idea what this one's called. Image, planes, bubble. Anybody see anything that says image planes? Maybe I don't open it up. Oh, that's it. Okay. There isn't a scene, right? Because this is level 3. I forgot. There's no scene already set up. So what do? I'm in level 3. If this was level 3, right? This is activity files. We're simulating a level 3 setup. You're with me, right? Okay. There's no scene, so I can't open the scene. So I have to cancel this. Let's cancel that out. Okay. What we're going to do, since I already have a scene something open, I'm going to go to a new scene. Right? So I'm going to file, new scene. Get rid of that one. So I don't want those in there. Right? So I have a fresh, clean scene. If I open the outliner, what am I going to see? Is anything going to be in there? For what? Cameras, exactly. It's going to be 4 cameras. The scenes already come with that. Okay, so if I look at my outliner, there's my 4 cameras. Okay. All right, but no geometry, right? No image planes. Okay. All right. So here's the thing I want you to remember is when we're setting up a scene, I would say the very first thing you need to do is save it. There's nothing there. It's an empty scene. There's really nothing to save, but when I want to save it later, I already want to save it as another version. So this one's already saved. Whatever I do to it, at the very least, I can do a save, or I can do a save as, but it's ready to go. So I'm going to do a save, right? So file, save scene as. It takes me to my scenes or whatever project it's going to be. When you're in level 3, there's not going to be any scenes in there, right? This is going to be the first one, so it's going to be empty. All right, so I'm going to name this one a test. My test scene. Save. Cool. Now, the next thing is I need to get some image planes in here. And just before I saved it, I mentioned that we're going to import those image planes into the camera, right? The camera has its own image planes, okay? Do we need any image planes in the perspective camera? We don't, right? Why? They're going to show up anyway, but we don't want them in the perspective camera because if we zoom away from the center, what happens to everything that is where we zoomed away from? It gets smaller. If we zoom into anything that's there, what happens? It gets bigger. So if you have a picture that you're trying to model from that every time you zoom in and out, it changes size, can you see the problem with that modeling, right? That's why we have the orthographic cameras, right? Because it doesn't matter how close or far we are to that object or the picture, it stays the same size. Does not have perspective. It's only 2 dimensions. So definitely have to go to the 4 view. Get out of the perspective. Now, I don't need my outliner. I don't need my channel box. I'm going to get a little more space here, a little more real estate. There we go. Okay. Front view. I'm going to make that my main camera. Look at all that real estate. I have to kind of turn my head to go from one side to the other. Awesome. Under view, image plane, import image. Is this the main menu? No, it's the camera view menu, right? Is this the perspective camera? No, it's not. It's the front because it says so really small right here. Even my bad eyes can read that on a big giant projector. So we're going to import that. So we're under that camera, under view, image plane, import image. Now Maya takes us to a new folder, right? When we set our project, it's set to a filing cabinet, right? And that filing cabinet has folders inside of there. Inside of those folders, there's more files, right? Or possibly folders. Depends on what you're looking for, right? In this situation, we're going into activity files project. Inside of that folder, we have another folder called source images. In that folder, we have these files, PNGs and JPGs. What are those? What are those extensions? You know what they are. What's JPG? JPEG, right? Short for JPEG. It's a compression. It's a type of compression, right? It's a type of file. Those are not the same. The JPG and the PNG, they are not the same file type. You can't go to your client and say, I know you want a PNG, but here's your JPG, right? Your JPEG. You can't give them the wrong file type. When we render at the end of the month, we're going to ask for TIFF, okay? It's not the default file type that Maya wants to save it as. So you have to change it. Make sure you change it to a TIFF, or you'll get a 0 for that image and all that time you worked on it. Okay, it's that important in the industry. I have gone to my clients and given them files, and they have told me I can't even use that. I'm like, well, just convert it. Like, I don't know how to convert it. I literally had to go down there, get it from them, take it back to my office, convert it, get it back to them. So, you know, it's all that is that much importance, really. Okay, so mech front, that's what we want. Mech front. Does that like the front of a mech, right? It does, right? And we named that PNG mech front, so it makes sense when I went into view, image plane, import image. Maya opens up my source images folder and says, here's everything you have to choose from. And easy for me to say mech front because I'm working with the mech and I'm in the front window, mech front, right? Let's name things that make sense. So let's open that up. Boom. All right, so there it is, right? I'm going to zoom in. Okay. So it changes size when we zoom in, but it's relative to the object. So if I have created a polygon cylinder, when I zoom in here, right? I can start making this. And whether I'm zoomed in this close or out here, they maintain proportion, right? On the other hand, in my perspective, if I try to do that and I'm pulling this in and out, it's going to be very hard to try to line that up. Oh, wait, is it the right side? It looks way too big. So let me scale that down. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Oh, wait, it's not in the right spot. Let me, oh, wow, that just changed size. So use your orthographics to model from. Your accuracy is going to be much higher. Check your stuff in your perspective. Why? Because you can tumble around 3D view, right? We're used to being able to look around in our 3D space, right? It's a little restricting when we have to work with a 2D orthographic camera. However, it's much more accurate, like the blueprints, right? Just like the selfie. Hey, we much rather look at that and make that picture. But if we're using it for creation or accuracy, not very good, right? So use your orthographics for that. Okay, so now we have that side, right? How about I'm trying to see the depth of this thing, right? I have no depth here, right? There's no picture. Okay, so I need to go to my side view, and I go to view, image plane, import image, and look for the mech side. Heck yeah. There we go. Now I have a placement for my object.
Really? What are you bringing? I have to take an umbrella. Well,
No.
I don't know.
Okay. So now we have 2 viewpoints to work from, and that's really all we're going to need. Now, is this image to scale? Are those 2 images exactly blueprint pictures where we don't have to worry about lining them up, right? Most of the time you're going to get pictures, or even if you take them yourself, or even the ones we're giving you, they're not exactly straight on, or they might, you know, the camera may be up or down a little bit from the side to the front, okay? Takes a lot of work to get an actual like blueprint orthographic pictures of an object, right? You can see some of ours, like the pliers, or the some are having to lean up against something, right? So just by that little bit of angle lean, right, that's given perspective to the picture, and you're wanting it straight on orthographic, right? So you'll have to take some artistic allowances and try to, you know, find out, well, guess where it would be if it was just lined up just perfectly straight. So to make sure we have everything lined up, we can go into our perspective and try to look at things and see where they are, because these are just like these image planes are just like polygon planes. We can select them, we can move them, rotate them, we can scale them, okay? So before we start modeling, I would suggest making sure that they line up, right? It doesn't look like they do, okay? Looks like maybe we need to, let's see. Oh, yeah, that doesn't quite line up. Let's see. Okay, so these are the top of the turrets. Let's see where they line up here. See how we can pull these over and start lining them up, right? So that they're lining up there. We can use elements that are matching up linearly. Okay. Okay, so we get the top of that. That's looking pretty good now. Okay. Now I want to have to model from the grid as my floor. Okay. So I'm going to take both of these now and select both of them and pull them up so that my feet are right at the grid. Okay. So we're right at the grid here. Okay, right at the grid here. All right, so this is kind of where I would want to start this thing. But you say, well, if I look in a perspective, these image planes are in my way. I can't really see the model. If I'm trying to model and it's behind here, you know, even though I'm not going to try to model too much accuracy from the perspective, I still want to check it, right? I want to look at it. So here's what I would say, okay? There's a couple ways to kind of get around this. First of all, when we move it, whoops, undo that. When we grab this image plane and move it back in space, in the perspective, right, it changes size, okay? But in our front view, right, this is what we're moving this image plane back in space, right? It's not changing size because it's an orthographic view, okay? If we move our vantage point from the camera, sure. But if we move the image in our perspective, it has that third dimension and it gets smaller. In our front view, no change. You notice that? Right? Pull it way forward or behind it. You can actually see the geometry that we're pulling the image plane in front of. Whoops, grabbed the wrong one. Right? Now we're in front of the geometry. Can't even see it in your front view. Right? So this is going to obscure. But if we push them way back, it's going to be fine for our orthographics, and it's going to be even better for our perspective because it gets them out of the way. So let's push this one back, right? This is now our side view, right? You don't see the geometry because our image plane's in front of it. Let's push it way back, right? Because it doesn't change our scale and our orthographics to have the image plane farther away from the camera. Okay, so that's one way to kind of get it out of your way. Hopefully you can understand what a 2D camera is, how it's different between a 3D camera, right? If we move closer to something with our vantage point of the camera, sure, that's going to change size. But if we take an image and move it back, it's not going to change in 2D. So we can have it pushed back out of our way, okay? So that's one way that you're able to work in your viewports and also check your perspective, okay? Still, they're kind of there, maybe a little bit annoying, okay? So each camera has this show menu set. This is a camera menu set, okay? There's a lot of things on there. Just about everything that you can show in Maya is in there. So we can turn it off if we want to. By default, it's on. Now be very careful not to turn off your polygons. If you turn them off, you're not going to see them. They're going to be in your outliner. They're going to be in your hypergraph, but you won't see them in your camera, right? Because you've told Maya not to show them. So do not turn off your polygons. Because I didn't just delete that cylinder. I just told that camera not to look at it, okay? And I can prove it to you right there. So you see it in the other cameras. You don't see it in your perspective, okay? So yes, it's still there, okay? And it shows you manipulator where it should be, but it's not going to show you the polygon. So I would suggest never turning that off for this month. But I do want to show you is you do have the ability to turn off under cameras, you have image planes. So in the perspective camera, you can turn off those image planes so you don't see them. So that's one way to not show them. Well, it's a couple ways, right? Push them out of your way. Tell that camera, don't show image planes in this camera because I don't need them in there. Cool. Okay. The other thing I like to do, just because I'm working in, say, this camera and I'm moving something up, I deselected it and I selected it and whoops, I just moved my image plane by accident. I selected it, okay? I need to see the image planes, but now I have them in place. I don't want to select them anymore, right? But I need to have them as reference. So your display layer has the ability to reference something, okay? So what I would suggest, what I always do with my image planes is that I go into my outliner, I will select my image planes, and I will create a layer from selected. I've just created a layer out of those two image planes. I'm going to double click on the layer name, and I'm going to name it layer image planes. Save. Before I save it, I'm going to go to display type. I'm going to change that to reference. Sorry about that. So display layers, you have been familiar with them, putting something on there, turning visibility on and off. Now, giving you one more aspect of a display layer is that you can tell it to be referenced. Okay, so this is doing the same thing. It's cycling through my normal, templated, or reference. And you can see that my templated will leave it there, but it doesn't show me the image. I have to have it referenced, okay? Again, same place here. I can normal, template, or reference. I want to reference it so that now I cannot select it. I can only select my geometry, which is very cool. I don't have to worry about moving it accidentally, scaling, or rotating accidentally. All right? So level 3, you got to do all those all by yourself. So what I would do at the very beginning of whenever you're going to start working on those level 3s, pick your models that you want to work on and go in and set up the scene, right? I mean, literally, you could do that today, right? You could do that in lab. You could set up your scene, you could choose one, set your project to it, right? Just do it. How much time have I got? Any questions on the image planes? Display layer, going to reference. Good idea, right? Okay. I will, let's see how much. Oh God, we have materials. No, I don't have time. All right, set it up in lab. So Marcus and Sarah can help you, right? Even if you're not sure which 3 or however many, go to week 3 and get the requirements, see what they are, go pick a couple or three or whatever, set the scenes up, make a new scene, import your image planes, okay? You may take it a step further and go ahead and scale your image planes to our production scale. That way, after you model it to the image plane, they're already to production scale, okay? All right. Sorry, I don't have time to show you all of that. But this is the cool stuff too. Oh yeah, materials. All right. So you're gonna get more information, more techniques, more knowledge about this, much, much more. We're not even really scratching the surface, okay? But again, this class is the foundations, right? And we're gonna give you some foundations for shading and light, okay? Not going to go very deep into it, just like we didn't go very deep into setup or, you know, getting ready for animation and hierarchy, but you did get some foundations there. So you're kind of ready, right? Kind of ready when you get to that class. It's not going to be totally foreign. You're going to recognize some of this technique, okay? Same way with materials, okay? We're not getting into it very deep, but it's going to start making a little bit more sense when you get there. It's not going to be completely foreign, right? So what window did I talk about earlier that you're going to use to create materials? It's in the hyperdrive. It's called Hypershade. Hypershade. Please, everyone write that in their notes. Hypershade. Believe it or not, I've had students get to that class and they will swear up and down to their instructor they've never heard of this Hypershade thing. Never seen it, never heard it. And it's just not true because we're going to use it. We're going to use it this month. Okay. All right. So basically what the materials do, it tells Maya mathematically, what are you going to do with these light rays that you're sending out from the light? What happens when you hit this green polygon? Well, you're going to color it green, right? But more than that, is it a shiny surface where I'm going to see some reflection? Is some of that light going to bounce off, and then what if it's a colored light? Or what if this is a red wall and then light bounces off? And some of that red going to come and splash over to the objects in there? Right, so materials are a way to describe and give information to the computer and kind of, you know, what to do with these calculations, okay? So we are going to use exclusively for our materials Lambert, okay? The Lambert material is a default material. That gray that you see is a default material inside of Maya. And they have default materials, they have default settings in there. Don't change those, right? Don't mess with the default Lambert, okay? Because if you change that default Lambert to say plaid, every time you create a new cylinder, cone, or cube, it's going to be plaid. Nightmare, right? No, you just don't change those because those are the defaults and you leave those alone. We're going to create new Lamberts, okay? We're going to create new ones, okay? I think we're going to do activity now. Yes. We're going to add color to our objects here. So let's open that up and let's see what it's going to be called here. Toolbox, materials, should be materials. Or is this a skill check? No, this is activity. I'm not very familiar with Steve's naming conventions. This was advanced tools, combining, separating. It's a toolbox activity? Thank you. Okay, you're awesome. Star for you. Save my life. Okay, so Steve has created some objects in here, and you can't mess with those, okay? But what he wants you to do, what I want you to do, is create your own, okay? So can you create that thing? I know it's really tough. Those are some really tough shapes there. So if you can't quite get that far, that's okay. Just create a cube. And what color is the default? Gray. Yay. You guys use the attribute editor at all? Click on there. Well, the nice thing about the attribute editor is that it shows all of the nodes that are connected to this object, okay? Including the material, okay? So every object to be able to be rendered, and that's what we're looking at as a hardware render, right? Every time we move or dolly, anything or zoom, anything we do with that camera, it has to redraw that, right? It has to calculate that, and it's using default lights, and it's using these materials, and it's giving this real-time render back to us, right? So it has to have a material on it, okay? And if we go to the attribute editor and we see there's Polycube, there's our transformation node, here's our P-Cube shape node, so how it was created, history of it. There's our shading group, and the very last one is our material, the Lambert 1. There it is. Do not change the Lambert 1. It's assigned to everything you get that gets created by default. That's your first material, okay? So you always leave that one alone. But I wanted to show you the attribute editor so you're able to see where it is, and you can check to see what material is on an object by going to your attribute editor, okay? Now, what window did I talk about we were going to create materials in? Hypershade. Right? It's like the lamp shade. Hyper one. So where is that? Let's see. Everything's under Windows. Is it a general editor? No. That's where my hypergraph is. That's where my attribute editor, my channel box, modeling editors, UV, no. Animation, definitely not animation, right? Rendering editors. Well, this is part of rendering, right? We've been talking about telling Maya what to do with the light, right? What happens when it hits that material. And then ultimately, we're going to render something out of Maya for your final scene. And yes, so this is dealing with rendering. So it's under Windows, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. No hotkey for it, but you could make one. You're going to use it a lot. If you had a hotkey to it, you know, say 8, right? And you get to shading and lighting, and they say, okay, open up your Hypershade. And you're like, oh, I've never heard of that thing, but I know what 8 is. Boom. It's there. You know it. Okay, so you don't have to make a hotkey, but if you press Hypershade, it's going to take a minute to open up. So it's a heavy-duty window. Look at all that's going on in this window, okay? And in fact, these are all separate windows within the Hypershade. Your Hypershade may not look like this. Maya is very finicky about the Hypershade. It likes to hide some windows. Sometimes it opens differently. Sometimes it moves them around. It's very strange what it does with the Hypershade, okay? Every month I get messages or emails. My Hypershade, I can't find create. It doesn't have anything in it. Open up the Hypershade, there's nothing there. I'm like, it's okay. It's all right. If you're in the Hypershade, right? I'm in the Hypershade window. There's all of the windows that are in the Hypershade window. If you accidentally push the little X next to one of those windows that's in the Hypershade window, it will disappear. To get it back, you go to Windows, whatever it was, right? If it's Create, you just open up the Create window again, okay? If it's Browser or Material Viewer, right? If it's a Property Editor, okay? You can get back to those, right? This at first seems very dysfunctional to be able to pull these off and move them around, close them. But later when you are familiar with all the windows, it makes it very fast, right? Like, okay, I need more real estate. I can get rid of I don't need the material viewer. I'll just close it out of there and get rid of it. Now I have more space over here. Oh, I don't need the property editor. Get rid of that. Now I have more space for the other windows in my Hypershade, right? That's why it's customizable to whatever you're trying to achieve, right? You as the artist can decide what happens with your window space, okay? All right, so in here you see a bunch of materials already here, okay? Those materials that are colored, like torus material, sphere material, those were made by Steve and he assigned those to his example. The defaults in here that come with a brand new scene, never added anything to it, would be your Lambert 1, and you see that it's gray. Leave that one all alone. Don't change it. Don't modify it. Always just leave it as Lambert 1, medium gray. This particle cloud one, leave that alone. Don't touch that. And the shader glow. Those three are going to be in there by the default every time you open up a new scene. Leave those alone. Don't use those. Okay. Since Steve already has some in here, we could use those and assign it. But I want you to make your own because you're going to need to know how to do that. The skill check today, we have you assign, create materials and assign materials. Okay. It's a zombie bus. Zombie kill bus. You get to put materials on it. All right. So under create here in the menu, I can create a material. Okay. If I have my create window open in my Hypershade, I can do the same thing here. I can create from here. The nice thing about the create window is that it actually gives me a little example of what I'm looking for, right? So if I look at Maya surfaces, right, I have the blend, I've got a Lambert, that's what I want right there, the Lambert. Got the Fongy, right? If I'm working with RenderMan, I have materials here. Okay, we're not going to get into any of those. If you would like to experiment with those, that's fine. Just don't turn any of those in for our final, submissions. If you want to show them to me in the Hangout or in the lab, whatever, or even after class, whatever, cool. I'd love to see them. But they're not for your turn-ins, okay? The only one we're going to use for our turn-ins is going to be this Lambert. So if I want to create one, I can go into the create menu right here, surface, and click on this Lambert. Now I have a Lambert 7 because he's already created 6 previously, right? Or I can go to create, materials, Lambert. I'm a menus kind of guy, so this sometimes makes a lot more sense for me just to go to the menu, right? It doesn't move around on me. I don't have to worry about a window that's closed or open or how to get it back. I can just use the menu. I'll create a Lambert. So now I just created 2 Lamberts, right? And this is going to be Lambert 8, right? Because that kind of naming makes sense for Maya. That kind of naming makes sense for computers. But Lambert 7 and 8 makes no sense for humans, right? Because it describes nothing to us besides a different material. It doesn't say that this is a Lambert for a cube, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that Lambert 7, the first one I made. I'm going to go over to my attribute editor. Okay, and I'm going to change the name of that. Cube material. What color are we going to make this? Pink, I heard pink. There's pink right there, or I could go to this color wheel, swirl it around, decide how much gradation, value, and saturation I wanted of the pink. I wanted a little bit more red in there, right? So we can just dial this around the color wheel, okay? These are presets, right? So I could just click on that, and then I'm done. So how did I do that? I clicked next to color, we have a rectangle. It was gray, right? It was this gray. And I'm changing it to pink. Got to give it some saturation and value. And now it's pink. Okay? So I have pink material. It's the cube material. Okay? Now, how do I get that material on my object? Okay, this is super easy too. Many, many, many different ways. Okay? I'm going to show you 3 ways. How about that? Is that fair enough? Show you 3 ways to assign this material. Okay. One, probably the way I prefer, maybe. Depends on if my hypershade is open or closed. My hypershade's open, I prefer to select the object, go to my material, right mouse button, RMB, click and hold, gesture upwards to assign materials to selected. I know that's a lot of steps. You might want to write that down. Select the object, go to your hypershade, roll over the material you want to assign, right mouse button, click and hold, and gesture upward to assign material to selected. If the hypershade's open, that's my preferred way to do it. There's another way to do it when the hypershade is open, okay? Let me just undo that, get back to gray. The other way to do it is if my hypershade is open and I have my materials here, I can use the middle mouse button, click and hold on that material until I get a little green plus sign, and then drag it to my object. That assigns it as well. That one's a little scarier for me because I'm not always sure I'm right over top of that material. You know, it kind of slows me down a little bit because I have to be a little bit more careful. Okay. When I'm selecting the object and then right mouse button assigning that material, it takes some guesswork out of there. Okay. The third way to do it, and this is the way I usually do it if my hypershade is not open. Okay. If it's not open, I can right click on the object until I get my menu set, come down to assign existing material. At this point, it's pretty important to have your name correct because if I'm using Lambert 7, I'm not sure because it doesn't give me a preview, right? It just gives me the name of the material, but I know I named it cube material, so that makes it easy for me to go, yep, assign existing material, cube material, done. Cool? All right, so you're ready to color your zombie bus? That's the skill check, right? Did you have fun setting up the hierarchy? All right, did you test it out? You ready to, did you dream about killing zombies? Take the applicator arms and do like this, spin the wheels a little bit. Wait till you get the animation, then you can set keyframes on it, make it move all by itself. Okay, so I think that's gonna be what we're gonna talk about next is the zombie kill bus. Okay, I know you all have, you can take the original one if you want to. I'm gonna go and set my project to my skill check files so that when I open that, I have my hierarchy project. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna open my channel box and turn on this layer. Totally up to you. You can add to this model. You can take away from it. You can have a lot of fun with it. What I don't want you to do is spend too much time here when you have your weekly assignments due, right? If you get the skill check, get it done, get your weekly assignments done, come back and play with this. I've seen a lot of good, fun, very creative models and materials created here. The materials can go on the whole object, okay? So if I want to change the whole bus, let's be totally unoriginal and make it yellow. So what window? Windows, rendering editors, Hypershade. Boom, okay, you see there's no other materials created in here. So it's just the default, which is Lambert 1, Particle Cloud 1, Shader Glow 1. Never mess with those. Don't be so lazy and don't create your own and start messing with this Lambert. He'll never know. I'll just go change the color of the original one. I'll have to create one. I'll know. So create materials, Lambert. I'm going to name this Lambert 2 bus material. Didn't even spell it right, but that's okay. People in my studio know I'm an idiot. No. There we go. Bus material. Okay, my favorite way to assign it is to select the object, come into the Hypershade, and right mouse button, click, gesture upward, assign material to selected, done. Okay, but what if I wanted some black racing stripes going down the top? I could create a new object, right? But I can also, first let's create the material, so we'll get all that ready. Say, okay, create, and Lambert, and this is going to be our bus stripes. And let's make those, don't like to make anything completely black, so I'm going to make them kind of pretty almost dark, but not completely. You can always go in here to the value and put that value in if you want to as well. Okay, so no other color besides a dark gray, really. Okay, so I'm going to go here and go into face mode, and well, it'll be easier if I kind of paint these. Let's go here and let's do my paint selection. Get this a bit smaller. Oops. All right, and we'll paint these over here. All right, and we have those selected, right? So we can say assign materials to selected. There's our not so straight racing stripes. So does this mean you can design happy faces on the side of the bus? Yes. Or what a lot of my students do, they will actually use the multi-cut tool and cut faces into the blade and put red in the spots along the blade. I don't know why they would do that, but splashes of blood, I think, is what they're doing. So you can make any design you want. We're going to let you cut this up. We're going to let you move all things around if you want to. Any one polygon can have its own material. So you can design, kind of a logo or design on your zombie kill bus with material on different faces, okay? Now, I want you to understand this is not texturing, right? We are not using texturing here to add the color. This is simply adding materials to faces, right? Whether it's all the faces of the object or one or any number in between there, okay? So you can, use the multi-cut tool. We're not going to worry about whether you have quads or triangles. Just have fun with the design, okay? Any questions about hypershade? Everybody write that in their notes, hypershade, the shade from the hyperness. You promise me you won't get to the class and go, I've never heard of that window? Oh, you're going to do it? Awesome. This guy, I'm writing his name down. Yeah, what's up? No, you wouldn't have one material with the texture, and the texture would be in place of the color, and it would be a picture, right? We're going to talk about UVs and laying out how that picture gets wrapped onto that object. So that would be one material. Like I said, this is typically not the way you do it, but this is good practice for creating materials and assigning materials. Right. You're going to take one material and you're going to tell part of that material to be matte and part of it to be glossy. Right. So you're going to use, yeah, right. So it's going to be a design. They actually use that design to wrap onto that object and say, this part of the design is going to be matte. This other part's going to be glossy, right? So that gets heavily into the texturing, right? And if you ever use Photoshop, I'm sure almost all of you have, right? It's a layering system, right? And you layer on top of that, and you can decide like how it goes through and how it blends, right? It's kind of the same way. You're going to decide where that is going to be matte and where it's going to be glossy, right? And then it's going to be a layer that you put on top of other layers, colors. There's so many things that go into it, right? But this is just to get you to make materials and assign them. Please name them, right? Get the habit of naming, right? So again, foundations, right? I love that you're jumping ahead light speeds into the future here. And, hit up Linda or, hit up, other resources, right? To get some practice on that. Obviously, our work's the priority. Number one right now. I'm sure you're hitting your deadlines. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. You guys have any questions before we go? Besides that one, Mr. Lightspeed, light year ahead of everybody. No, it's all good, man. Questions are the best, if you don't ask, right? I know I gave you a little bit of information and it kind of started to make a little sense there, right? So if you never asked, you wouldn't get that, right? So please ask. Questions are the best way to learn, right? Because you have that right at the surface of your thought. And if you get that answer, then it's going to be complete, right? You've got the answer. Now you're well, part of the answer. All right, you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday. Thank you.